Two of the top 10 most influential people in the advertising world are sitting with us in our studios. Abhijit Awasthi, National Creative Director of Gilvey India, and Agnello Dayas, Co-Chairman Taproot India. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. First question to you. You and Agnello both have brought the average age down for a change. What does it feel like being in the top, and what do you think has actually created the two of you onto that top 10 list?
Oh, of course, it feels fantastic to be there. I think it's nice to be recognized a little early on. Having said that, I think while we've gotten there, it's on the back of what pretty much everybody in the agency's done. So I think that contributes, it's all perception-led. And if Ogilvy does well,
I know. Now that you've given us the politically correct answer, let me ask you, when creative people get into the influential list, obviously it's the creativity that matters. And that's evolved over the last 5 years in a big way in the Indian advertising scene. What has sort of changed in terms of clients' expectations, and what do you think you all have been able to deliver there?
For starters, that wasn't a politically correct answer. I do mean that. And I'll tell you why. There's a reason for that. And the two are linked. Clients' expectations, the one big difference say from 5-6 years earlier on is that they expect the creative guys to be strategically sound as well. And we depend a lot on our planning and servicing partners to help us get there. So while yes, we add the spark and the magic to a lot of the work, but there's no doubt that we need to brainstorm with those guys to at least look good in front of the clients.
Okay, let's bring in Agnello here. Agnello, how are the new influentials different from the old guard? Advertising, we've traditionally associated with a bunch of 5-6 people whom we identify as the old guard. How are the new influentials different? Are you guys more aggressive?
Well, for starters, I don't think we should jump the gun. They may be back next year, and at least for us, we've had one good year, and we follow a lot of Ogilvy's work because pretty much set the benchmark over the years in the industry. And when they do some good work, then we try and do in a small way some good work ourselves. But I don't think there is that much of a difference between the new guard and the old guard. It's because we do pretty much what they used to do, probably in a few different new media which they didn't have.
Right.
At that
so
time.
That's the point, isn't it, Agnello? This new media, obviously changing clients' expectations from what creative directors deliver for them, thinking out of the box, reaching out to the youth. These are things that are something that are becoming extremely important to clients, aren't they?
Yes, I think there was a long period where the medium through which advertising was delivered was more or less constant, 2 or 3 media, and therefore practitioners of the craft in those media became important for an agency and an important part of the agency's structure. But what is now happening is creativity is craft agnostic. So if you have an idea, it doesn't matter that you also don't know a craft through which you need to express it, and that's the big change because clients are looking for that rather than craftsmen who will also be able to express their idea.
Abhijit, let's talk about the broader trends in the industry because we are witnessing a slowdown across sectors. Is the advertising industry untouched by such a slowdown? What's the state of the industry? Is it in a phase of transition, turmoil?
My sense is honestly not that untouched. And maybe some sectors like the finance, etc. This is just my hypothesis. I'm not no economist or something, but my sense is I think people by and large think that the little slowdown is temporary in India. Okay, and unlike the West, where once a slowdown started, it goes on for 7-8 years, and now there's empirical evidence that it's better to stay invested in building a brand, even if it's for a year and a half or 2 years of recession, than to come back again and outspend your competition. So honestly, I don't think there's been that much of a cut down or slowdown.
On the budgets at all, you're saying?
And that as well, across categories, we are lucky to have lots of clients across different categories. I don't see much of a slowdown in terms of launches, in going regional, in innovation. So honestly,
let me turn that question around and ask you, in today's world, there are a large number of people looking to advertise in some form or the other, and they may not be the kinds who have budgets of a Unilever type. How does a small budget approach work in the creative world? And today, are creative heads beginning to look at companies that have smaller budgets but possibly great ideas?
Yes, definitely. I think that's one of the reasons which makes today's times that we of advertising really interesting. Imagine if Colavaredi was a product. What have they really spent to become famous? Hardly anything. I think the proliferation of media, the kind of opportunities and channels one has, as Aggie said, you just need a great idea, and there's enough out there that can be done even on a small budget.
I don't know what does the future hold for advertising agencies, because I read a quote in the paper, a very interesting one. He said the same car will be sold differently to you and someone else, and both of you won't get to see the message.
Yes, I think the way Indian media was structured, whether you sold a Mont Blanc or you sold a detergent, you had to go through the same channel. You basically went to KBC and you reached 100% of the people even when you wanted to reach just 10, because there was no other way of reaching those 10. But I think there will be increased specialization in terms of TGs. They will be broken down into smaller silos as broadband gets more powerful, and then you could probably take, like I said, a car and create a different message or 3 different messages depending on 3 targets.
That's more of a long-term thing, or do you see it happening in about 3 or 5 years?
No, I think it will happen very fast, because the amount of money you can save on media spending is nothing compared to how much you'll have to spend to make 3 different commercials.
Right. And that's actually one of the trends, again, we're seeing with the advent of new media, particularly social media. You know, I want to take this to back to television just for a moment, because we know that TRAI is out with guidelines that talks about how not more than 12 minutes of advertising, you know, to keep the viewer experience intact. Do you think it's going to have an impact? Does it make sense? Is that the right rationale?
Personally, I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think the quality of viewership is so much dependent on the duration of ad breaks over there. To me, it's more about the quality of programming out there. Strangely, there are a lot of people today, you know, who look forward to ads and programs. Now, I would put it the other way around. So I think it might adversely affect television viewership. But having said that, on a serious note, I think, you know, yes, it will cause some kind of flux. I believe it's out only for the paid channels and not for the others. So let's see how the others cope up. But more importantly, I'd think it's the kind of programming and content that's going to drive viewership.
We don't want Wall Street bankers' salaries, but advertisers need better compensation. That's been a long-standing demand. Do you see it changing? When do you see clients actually, you know, giving more value for the work that you guys put out?
I think the smarter and the more prudent ones have started paying heed to that. You know, it's a vicious cycle. It's going to come back and bite the clients at some point in time. You look at it this way: there was a time when good creative people and people from marketing backgrounds, advertising was the only avenue. Okay, today there are many. What's happening is, I think, you know, finally compensation is a big part of retaining talent in any industry. Today, if agencies aren't remunerated well enough and they aren't able to remunerate their people well enough, lower quality talent will come in, and that will finally impact marketing and advertising and communication for the clients.
That must be a huge relief, because all the time when we were in college, we used to think, oh, you're going to do advertising 10 years and we'll see you there. It was one of those stories. But you agree with what Abhijit said?
I have a probably slightly unpopular view in the advertising industry. I think if advertising agencies want adequate compensation for, say, ideas that do well, and it's hard to tell sometimes which can do well, we probably have to be prepared to take the hit if an idea does not do well. And if you do that, then probably clients will be more willing to talk to you about equal compensation depending on how an idea runs. So right now it's the lowest common denominator, where you more or less fix your money, and then if it does great, you lose out, and if it doesn't do well, you've still been safeguarded. But I guess they'll want to share the upsides and the downsides.
Okay, so okay, one very quick question. I have to sneak this in, but Cannes not more than a month away. Expectations building up there in a big way?
Yeah, I think for the last 4 or 5 years, if we don't beat our best performance of 30 or 40 Cannes Lions, we are usually considered to have had a bad year, which is my constant grouse with the trade media, because even if you do really well, if you've not done the best that we ever did, then it's, oh, we've had a bad year. So I think expectations are building up. It's fair, it's correct. I think we are a significant power now there. When we go there and you say from India, it matters a lot.
It matters a lot. Okay, gentlemen, where you are today, we're going to be getting you in our studios more and more often. Thank you very much for joining us. It's such a pleasure.